I heard a zing, like a bullet will make a zip noise. I didn't hear a fire, but I heard the zip noise, and then something hit me. I was looking out my passenger window, and at that point I see there's a bullet hole in my passenger window. I lined that bullet hole up with me, and I was like, I probably got hit. So I look down at my radio, and when I do, I can see blood is like cascading off my arm. It's like somebody turned a faucet on.
This is 56, a Pinellas County Sheriff's Office podcast. I'm Ricky Butler with Laura Sullivan and Ashley Cooley. I think if we asked agency members, especially on the law enforcement side, to come up with a Mount Rushmore of people that they don't think we'd ever be able to get on the podcast, today's guest would be on that theoretical list.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, because we have Lieutenant Dave Stang, who oversees our tactical investigations section, and really been in law enforcement over 35 years and has only spent a handful, little teeny tiny few of those years in like traditional law enforcement roles. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a lot about what that looks like. Maybe not too many specifics, but it's definitely a different flavor and very effective type of law enforcement that Lieutenant Stang has spent a lot of his career in. So welcome. We appreciate you coming on. And before we get into it, Ashley has a question. Let's do it.
I do. All right. So it's a would you rather.
Thank goodness.
So I know you would be happy about that.
So stressful.
Okay. So you can eat whatever you want, but you are nutritionally good to go, fit, all that. Or you sleep 1 hour a day and you're completely rested.
I want to eat everything I possibly can, so I'm going to go with that. I can have the perfect body and eat whatever I want, or yeah,
that's the scenario.
There's no question.
All right.
Okay. Wait, I still get to sleep my regular sleep. It's not like I don't sleep again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just which of those two things. Would you
hell
prefer?
yeah.
But
Food, 100%.
But if you choose the sleep an hour option, like you're capable of sleeping more than an hour if you wanted.
I wouldn't say so. I'd say like you're completely rested.
That sounds like a punishment.
It would be difficult to continue to rest. You're fully rested.
Got anything, Dave?
I'm eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High five across the table.
Yeah,
You're dead.
I think I am too. Because on one side, it's like, oh, it would be cool to, be super productive sometimes, but I also like
You
to
don't
sleep.
want to be that productive, do you?
I don't know.
A little more productive.
No, but there are some days I'm like, if there were more hours in the day today.
Yeah.
There's always tomorrow.
But not
I guess.
23 hours. That's a little much.
Okay.
Come on.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Ashley?
As much as I love eating all the trash foods in the world with no consequences, I think it would be amazing to feel fully rested all the time. And at first, when I thought about it, I was like, if everyone else is still on their normal sleep schedules, like what are you going to do? But I think you would adjust and I'd be able to tap into some of those things that I don't have time for during the day. So,
And you know an awful lot of people who work night shift now, so.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Just got to do ride-alongs the whole time.
Good.
Get some overtime.
Good. So,
All right, good
yeah.
stuff. That wasn't
I don't-
nearly as scary as some of the
It
others
was not.
have been.
And it was easy for me because
Yeah.
I get good sleep and I have a
There
food
you go.
addiction, so.
All right, Lieutenant Dave Stang, where did you come from? Why are you here?
Hey, before we start.
Yeah.
This is not something I usually do.
Oh,
but
boy.
So many of these stories, there's going to be a component that's based on his physical appearance, his size. So for people who are listening and not looking, I just want to paint a little bit of a picture. So picture in your head.
Oh, God.
Dave, you're 6'7".
I'm 6'7". Yes.
Right?
35 pounds.
35 pounds. Okay.
Yes.
And let me just say, from appearances anyway, all of it functional. This is a functional body, a muscular body, a big, strong human being. So,
Okay,
so
it's a wrap.
keep this. Not to objectify you, although it is men's turn. But I think it's important for a lot of these stories that we're going to hear that people know what a big hunk of human this is. Carry on.
Thank you, Laura. Yep. All right, Dave.
Yep.
Origin story. Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Key West, Florida. My dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
He was a SEAL in Vietnam.
All right.
So we were in Key West for him. That's where they came back to once they got done doing whatever they were doing over there. He was injured and he had to get out of the SEALs. He lost vision in one of his eyes. And he became an electrical engineer and we had to go to Greece for some reason. I don't know why.
Needed some electrical.
But I was
work over
5
there.
years old, so
Okay, didn't really matter.
we went to Greece. Him and my mom parted ways in Greece, and then we went to Turkey. My mom remarried, and then we came back to the United States. Probably I was about 8-ish, maybe. And we lived in Las Vegas for a little while. But the bulk of my growing up was done in Washington State.
Okay, and I mean, as a kid, moving around a lot. I mean, and it's common for military kids, obviously, with that experience. But how did that impact you?
I mean, I was about 10 when we got locked
Yeah.
in, and then I lived in pretty much the same house from 10 on.
So not a big deal.
It didn't really affect me.
Greece, though, supposed to be pretty.
Yeah.
The water was clear. That's about all I remember.
Bunch of white buildings and clear water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been back?
I have not.
Greece?
No.
So were you a good kid growing up in Washington State?
I mean,
Compared to today's kids?
I was mischievous. I will put it that way. I grew up. My mom was basically single. She's been married a couple times. Sorry, Mom, but like 5. But
No big deal, Mom.
yeah,
It's normal.
So my sister took the bulk of raising me. She was only 3 years older than me, though. My mom obviously raised me, but my sister was
Right.
the one that was there while she was working. My mom did a fantastic job. Like when I became a father and had to provide for my children, I have no idea how she did it. So kudos to her for that. And she kept me fed, which was probably not a small task.
Right.
So my sister became the authoritarian, basically, which meant nothing to me because she was my sister. Not
Right.
me. So
Not the boss of me.
that's where I learned how to take a punch was from my sister.
Your sister.
Yeah. Oh, she could
An
hit,
actual punch.
she could hit like
Yeah.
a bricklayer. She could hit very hard. And I would never hit. I've hit one woman in my entire life, and that was to save her life, believe it or not. But
Does she see it that way?
maybe I don't know. I never talked to her afterwards, but.
Anyway, so back to getting your ass kicked by your sister.
So it happened. It happened on a regular basis. Like I had to be home by a certain time, and she'd have dinner ready. And if I wasn't home by that time, then it turned into an argument. And
Now, what part of Washington State? Was it a rural area?
yes,
or?
very rural.
Okay.
I grew up in Spanaway, which is a suburb of Tacoma.
Okay.
But if you're driving from Tacoma to Mount Rainier, you drive up the mountain highway. It's the only way to get there. And I lived right off the mountain highway.
Okay. So
It must have been beautiful.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah. It was a great childhood. You're not thinking about it when you're a kid, but when I was I'm
Looking
like,
back,
I
yeah.
wish I had it back. So,
But I mean, in the country, then kind of. So you could really
yeah.
get into some trouble.
oh, we did, some stuff. Yeah, we did some stuff.
I think the statute of limitations expired, so you can probably talk about it, but
Just silly kid stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silly kid stuff.
silly kid stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing. Really.
Stuff that would get you punched by your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she never really knew about that.
Oh.
No. We wouldn't get caught. We just would do silly stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of bike riding. Like we would ride our bikes for 20 miles to go do something. Like we'd go fishing, but we'd ride all the way up to north of where we lived. All towards the mountain, find a right lake and go fishing, and then ride all the way
Right all the way
back.
home.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
nothing. It was great.
Nothing bad
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So then what?
So I grew up there. I obviously went to high school and middle school and elementary school there, and then I was in high school. I was slated to go to the Marine Corps. There was we were going to go on the buddy program. There was 10 of us. And
what's the buddy program? Just because all of you, the whole 10 of you stick together?
the
you mean?
recruiters come to the school and talk you into going to the Marine Corps, and then all your buddies join in, and so 10 of you are going to go. I don't know theoretically how it works once you get there because I didn't do it, but
Spoiler alert.
theoretically you go to boot camp together. You go through boot camp together, and you obviously don't get assigned together after that.
Yeah.
But so 9 of my buddies did go on and go to the Marine Corps, but I was a senior, and a guy I was friends with, I played football with, had graduated a year before me, and he looks me up one day and says, "Hey, I'm going to go test for this fire department job. Why don't you come with me?" And I was like, "Because I'm not going to the fire department. I'm going to the Marine Corps." So he was like, "Well, the first part of the application is just their physical test." So he goes, "It'd be a good workout for you. Maybe I want to go by myself." So I said, "Okay, I'll go." So I go and do their physical ability test basically, and I'm not a runner, but I had a lot of endurance and I was strong. So that was the bulk of their test is you had to lift things up and move ladders and drag hoses and stuff like that.
Move recliners around.
Yeah, exactly. Pick up the remote 100 times in an hour. Yeah. So
Fix the TV.
Yeah. So I had to, I ended up breaking their PAT record.
Oh, wow.
So, and they didn't, they told me at the time, I was like, okay, thanks. And then I left. And so then they kept calling me and I look back on it and I'm really not sure how I was so naive, but they would call me and be like, hey, can you come do this? And like, it was an oral board, which I showed up to. And like, I wore baseball hat, jeans, and a t-shirt every day. That's what I showed up to the oral board. And they asked me some questions and literally they asked me, what makes you want to be a firefighter? I said, I really don't. I just came with my friend to do the physical ability test. And I'm going to go be a Marine. And they said, well, you never thought about being a firefighter? I said, oh, no, not really. And then, okay. But so, I do all that stuff and all the stuff you do to get hired. And then they, about a month goes by and a guy calls me at home because there was no cell phones. He called me at home and was like, hey, we want to hire you. Can you start the academy like in a month or whatever it was? And I was still in high school, which I wrote on the application. And I think I told him that in the oral board too. So I was like, well, I don't graduate high school for like 6 months. And he was like, oh, really? And you could hear him shuffling papers. And then he's like, I'll call you back. I'm like, okay. So he called me back and he's like, hey, I have an academy that starts 2 months after you graduate high school. And I was like, I'll think about it. I'll let you know. So, and I honestly don't know what changed my mind. I don't know.
Having a job. I mean, what were you doing as a teenager for a job, or did you have jobs, or what?
My mom had eventually married a logger. He was a timber buyer for Weyerhaeuser, but he owned his own logging company.
Wow.
So when I was about 11 or 12, I started working with him. Mostly first it started on the weekends, and then
what kind of work? Like
I was a logger. When I was 11, if you know how logging works. So
they cut down trees.
It's different now.
Turn them into log cabins.
You have what's called a landing. So there's usually they'll find the flattest part of where you are, and that becomes your landing. So they have big machines. They're called skidders, and then they have timber fellers. Those are the guys that cut trees down. So they'll cut trees down out in the woods, and then these skidder operators will go out and they pull cables off a big winch, and they have chokers off of them. So it's like one long line, and it has like 15-foot lines that come off of it. They'll slide up and down a line so you can be wherever they want. So you hook those up to trees and then they'll drag a bundle of trees back to the landing. And then
so falling trees and heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect environment for an 11-year-old. Yeah.
it was pretty cool. Yeah. So my first job was I worked on the landing, and you basically delimb the trees, any limbs that are left on it, and then you cut them to board length. So they'll tell you, if the tree's 45 foot long, it has to be so big at the top. So you have to cut off whatever you can make a 2x4 out of, basically. And then you cut the trees, and then there's somebody on the landing that moves them to a big pile. But you just run a chainsaw all day long is what you do.
It's like a lumberjack?
Pretty much, yeah.
At 11.
At 11.
Like
11.
Paul Bunyan.
11 or 12.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then by probably 13 or 14, I graduated till I was running the skidder. So I would go out in the woods and drag the wood. And so
That's pretty cool.
that was a pretty neat environment. It was, it taught me a good work ethic. That's stuck with me my whole life.
And some of the people I'm sure you were working with were interesting.
That's interesting is a good word. Yeah, they're, rough and tumble guys. And I went to a bar every day. Every day I worked, I would go to the bar with them
At
afterwards.
11?
Oh yeah. Sit at the bar and then drink, soda or milk or whatever I wanted.
Aw.
He was holding a super heavy chainsaw all day.
Yeah.
He earned it.
Yeah.
You need a shot of milk at the end of that day.
Well,
at least a beer. Damn.
And then to add on, when I got into high school, they added on a firewood business. So we had a firewood business the majority of the time I was in high school, because high school, I couldn't really go and work during the week. I would only work on the weekend logging. But I would come home from school every day and split 4 cords of wood. So build a truck that had a 15-foot bed, and it was 4 feet tall. So I would have to split that every day. And I did it by hand for the majority of the time. And then they bought us a log splitter, but I didn't like it. So I just
Doing it by hand. Damn.
But it kept you in really good shape.
Like with an axe?
Yeah, an axe or a maul. Or,
His hand.
Yeah.
Chopped it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Is that what
I feel like my mouth is just going to be, my jaw's going to be dropped through this whole thing, even though I've heard it before.
Is that what made you physically fit to do the fire?
I played football in school, and
okay.
plus I was working out with the Marines. So the Marines would try to make it fun. So we would go do paintball and stuff like that. But they would PT us so that we knew what was coming for in boot camp. So we would run with them some, and we would do push-ups with them and pull-ups and things like that. So that's what it has. Plus I was playing football at the time. So
now, all right. So you actually do the firefighter thing though for a bit.
I do the firefighter thing. I got hired, and it was actually a really cool job. They had a resident program, they called it. So I actually moved out of my house and went and lived at the fire station. So when you lived at they called it the master station. It's the head where all the chief and everybody else is. Mm-hmm. So I moved in there. It was barrack style. Like you had like a twin size bed, which me and a twin size bed aren't a good combo, but I made it work. And you have a locker at the end of your bed. And then I was only there 2 months. And then when you go to the outlying stations, you basically have your own bedroom. So it's a large bedroom. You can put your own furniture in if you want. Plus you have your own bathroom. Nobody else is allowed to use your bathroom.
Not bad.
Oh, that's nice.
And then you just chip in with the other shifts, and you
buy food
with them and stuff. Then the only stipulation to the job was if you were home and you weren't working and a fire came in, you had to go to the fire with them. So, but that's the cool stuff about being a firefighter.
I mean, that kind of probably some forestry type environment out there, right?
Yeah, so I went to Idaho for 2 weeks to fight forest fires.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, it was terrible. I don't know how those guys do it. When we got there, they said, okay, you guys are sleeping over there. It was a football field with no tent, no nothing. And we worked the night shift. So we were like, go over there, and that's your square over there. Go there and sleep.
In the sun.
In the sun. And Idaho is like the high desert, so it's hot.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was terrible. There's guys sleeping everywhere in their underwear. No, you can't put anything. All you do is cover your face so the sun. So you're burnt from the sun. And it was terrible.
Wow.
And then, I was 18 years old. So they're like, there's showers over there. So I go in the shower, and the first time I go in the shower, and the shower is literally just this big black bag that hangs up and they have tarps around it. Well, I go, there's 2 women in there. I'm like, oh, sorry. And they're like, oh, no, everybody showers at the same time. I'm like, I don't. I'll wait out here. When you're done, I'll head in there. But
wow,
that was rough.
Yeah, I mean, because I've seen a lot of. I think the forestry service, kind of the fire. That's really super interesting too. Like the way they actually have to do it.
Yeah.
So like you guys were.
It's crazy.
Dropped out there and
we walked in.
We'll walk,
smoke jumpers are a whole different breed. But they'd truck us up there, and we'd walk in, and you had like a line that you had to do. And you got chainsaws, you got pickaxes, shovels, and they call them, we'll call them a pecan, but it's basically 20 gallons of water you wear on your back, and you can pump the water so you can put out little spot fires with it. And that was pretty much it.
Well, at least you had some experience with an axe and chainsaws and all that. So
I was pretty good at that. That's kind of why I went. But yeah, next time they asked for volunteers, I didn't go.
Lesson learned.
I mean, we got paid, and we got to keep all this because the U.S. Forest Service gives you clothes and a canteen and everything. And they were like, oh, you guys can keep all that. Gee, thanks.
So how long did you do that for, the firefighting piece?
It was about 1.5 years. It got cut short a little bit, but yeah, my mom had, my older sister had moved on. She was going to college, and she was out in Washington still. My mom moved to Florida with the man that was a logger.
Okay.
And my younger sister. And
how did he do out of the woods?
He did not do well.
No.
So and I knew it was going to be an issue. He was like literally like Grizzly Adams, like hunter, fisherman, had to be outside in the woods, and it's not the same in Florida.
Yeah.
So basically he became down here, and he became a dump truck driver, I think. So he went to work one day and never came back. So I'm assuming he went back to Washington. I really don't know where he went, but
damn. So then at what point do you come down to Florida?
Right about that.
Right then.
My mom called me and said, I can't make it here on my own. Can you? Because she was before that. This is before, I think even email. But she would send me letters, and they have articles about the bugs in Florida. And I'm like, why would anybody want to live there?
The bugs,
cockroaches. I mean, she would send me articles like that. I'm like, hey.
Don't you guys have big bears?
Yeah, but that's better than a cockroach.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's bugs.
Roaches don't kill you, though.
There's bugs in Washington, but bears are, they don't bother you. You don't bother them, they don't bother you.
Well, not you. You're as big as a bear.
Well,
yeah, the bears are like...
Us, they would bother.
Yeah, they don't really want to bother.
Yeah.
So
then you come down. Mom's like, can't make it, need you down here.
Yep, so I came down here, bought a house. My mom and my sister lived with me for 2 or 3 more years, and then my mom moved out with her. She got married again. And then, so I lived there by myself for a little while.
But I mean, that's literally why you left fire department.
Yep.
moved down here, and
Packed everything up and came down here.
And then what'd you find to do down here? Was it Pinellas, by the way?
Yeah.
Was it Pinellas County?
It was Pinellas County.
Okay.
Back then, you could not cross-certify. So I'm an emergency medical technician in Washington, and I'm a certified firefighter. So now you can take a national EMT or paramedic test that it goes anywhere. And then you also could laterally transfer into fire departments. You can do it now. Back then, you couldn't. So I would have had to go through the whole fire academy again, and I would have had to go to EMT school again. And I wasn't doing that. So, and plus I literally drove into Florida, and I think we stopped for gas in North Florida somewhere. And I got out of the car and I was like, is the oven on? Because when I was a firefighter, wherever we went, we had to wear our bunker gear. So that heavy clothing. So not knowing any different, I'm like, I would absolutely die here. You can't, because it gets a little warm in Washington, but
Not Florida warm.
not like
this.
I mean, the
Humidity.
temperature warm, but plus the humidity.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I didn't realize, they run around in shorts and t-shirts here, but
They just don't know what it's like.
yeah. So when I first moved here, I actually got a job as a maintenance guy on the beaches. I was pretty handy. So I worked on sprinklers, and I'd worked really early in the morning. It was most of these condos where they'll rent out their places and rental units and stuff like that, all from mostly in like Indian Rocks, Indian Shores, all down the beaches there. And then I'd go in the morning and make sure the pool was clean and nobody had pooped in it overnight or anything like that.
That's
And
a thing?
That's
a
pretty
thing.
common? Yeah.
Oh, it was a thing, yeah. I mean, technically you're supposed to drain the pool, but I just dumped a bunch more chlorine in there. So,
Did you take the poop out?
oh yeah. Well, I just launched it out in the mangroves or on the beach or something. So,
It's just fertilizer, yeah.
yeah.
So it's not like in Caddyshack then.
No. So I did that for a little while. I don't remember how long it was. And then I was working there, and a security guy saw me and asked me if I wanted to work for a security company. And I was like, yeah.
Why would you do that?
I was like, how much? And he told me. So, and it was literally, he had all the contracts for all the car lots along 34th Street, like the big car lots.
Okay. Like on the south end of the county?
From south to all the way up to past Dimmitt Cadillac.
Oh, nice.
Like he
Okay.
had them all. And if you saw the guy, you wouldn't believe it. And if you're watching, sorry, or listening, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
But so so I did that for like 2 weeks, and then he made me a supervisor. Said, yeah, all you got to do now is I'll give you a car, you can take it home. So I drove a Ram Charger like our canines used to have.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my take-home car, and then all I had to do is check on the guards,
Wow.
all night. Like I'm, not even 20 years old. I'm checking on guys that are 60 to make sure they're staying awake. So I would just drive from one end of the county to the other, and then I was doing that. My mom worked at the jail at the time. She was a record supervisor,
Okay.
and she kept trying to talk me into going to work at the jail. So I was like, okay, I'll go work at the jail. I'm still fit at this point. So I show up, I apply, and I show up to take the PAT test, which used to be a 1.5 mile run, as many sit-ups as you can do in a minute, as many push-ups as you can do in a minute, and your max bench press. I think that was it. So it was at the old sheriff's office building. So I show up, and I think his name was Herbie Weller. He was the fitness guy at that point. So I meet him out there. I'm the only one that shows. So I'm the only person there. So he's like, go run a 1.5 miles. Again, I'm not a runner. So I can run a 1.5 miles. I ran it. So I get done. So as soon as I stop running, he's like, okay, you see that little building over there? And he's talking about the old training building, which is like 500 yards away. I was like, yes, sir. He's like, all right, run over there and I'll meet you there. And drives off in his little golf cart. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to get a job. So I sprint 500 yards across the parking lot, go downstairs. And he's like, okay, drop down and give me as many push-ups as you can in a minute. So I'm about to throw up at this point. So I do that. And then roll over and give me as many steps as you can in a minute. I do that. And then they have like a 1942 bench press machine that's in there. And I get on that, and I don't think I could even do my body weight. It was pathetic, whatever I could do. But he's like, you can't do your body weight? I said, well, I'm about to die. You just ran me to death. You know, I'm not trying to be rude, sir. And he was like, well, you should be able to do it. I'm like, okay, sorry. So long story short, I didn't get the job.
Right.
So then I don't know. Honestly, I can't remember. I don't know how I applied at St. Pete.
So
St. Pete PD.
Yes.
So the law enforcement piece there for you, did you ever have an interest in law enforcement?
No, not a bit. It was just a job. just a job. I mean, now, when you look back on your life, it kind of makes sense now, because I did get in quite a few fights in high school, and it was all
mischievous.
So the way it started is I had been a freshman in high school about 2 weeks, and there was
now hold on. How I won't make it weird like Laura did, but how tall are you in high school?
At this point, I was probably a freshman. I was probably 6 foot, probably a couple 100 pounds.
6 foot. Okay, so
Okay.
Yeah. But I've been working, so I'm a strong 200 pounds. Not weightlifting. Just I've got work muscle,
Lumberjack
Hauling
stuff.
logs, shopping,
Brawny
which is
man.
generally better than lifting weights. So, so there's a kid like 5 lockers down from me, Korean kid. And there's a guy, we called him stoners back in the day, because you could smoke in high school when I went to high school. So they had their own smoking area.
That's awesome.
They would go out there and smoke, and, in the rain, they'd be standing out there smoking. Just, I don't want to judge people, but basically losers. They would go out there and do their thing. And so he was in between us, and he was a senior. So for whatever reason, he took to picking on this kid every day. And so at one point I was like, you know what? And at this point, I hadn't been in a fight in my life, except with my sister.
Right.
So I could defend myself.
So, but you're a freshman, and
he's
the bully
is
a senior. Okay.
He's a senior. And my sister was a senior at the time, too. So I told his name was Ivan. We'll call him Ivan. I told Ivan, I said, listen, I'll fight that guy and make him quit picking on you. And he was like, nah, that'll just make it worse. And I was like, I don't think so. And he was like, nah, don't. I appreciate it, but don't. I got it. So a couple of days later goes by, and that guy walks up, and I was standing there trying to get in my locker. He pushes Ivan's head into the locker and bangs off the locker. So that was it. So I fought him, and I won. So, and then me and Ivan became best friends throughout high school.
I bet.
Unfortunately, he killed himself in high school. Like we were seniors, but up until that point, we were the best of friends. So somehow, I don't know how it started, but other kids were getting picked on, and I was never afraid to fight. So it just kind of started like, I would. And plus my sister, like all the stoners that we called them, wanted to beat me up after that. But my sister was a, cheerleader and stuff. So she knew the whole football team. So they were like, yeah, if you touch him, that's going to be a bad day. So I didn't always fight them, but and there wasn't that many more when I was a freshman. When I got in my older years, and the nice thing about my school was if you got in a fight, you had a choice. My principal was about 6'4", 250. He could call your parents, or he would paddle you. And wouldn't call your parents. So I would take the paddling. So, people that were getting picked on or bullied would come get me, and I would go fight. And a lot of this came from the lumberjacks. Like, they would get in bar fights, and they don't talk about fighting. They just fight. Somebody makes them mad, they start fighting.
Yeah.
So you don't like say hello first or anything. You just punch them right in the face.
No, but then after a while, they kind of knew what was coming. If they saw me coming, then they knew, okay, there's a fight. They would, sometimes try to run
or just apologize right away.
They try that too, but you already did the deed, so you
still get the beat down.
You're gonna have to get some punishment for it. So it's just the way it went.
That's awesome.
And then when I was in 11th grade, people attacking or kids attacking school employees back in that day it was unheard of.
Right.
So I was in a portable classroom, and we were in I don't know if you guys even remember them. They're metal desks. They had a flip up top, a wooden flip up top, and you kind of had to slide in it sideways. Well, I was in 11th grade, so now I'm about 6'3". And I'm probably pushing 250 at this point. Well, I'm in that desk, and this kid is arguing with the teacher. We're in a portable. And then, they're arguing back and forth. I'm not really paying attention. Well, then I hear a thud, and I look, and he had punched the teacher. And then he was going after her again. So I tried to stand up, and the desk is stuck on me. So I'm about halfway there, and the desk breaks. And then when the desk breaks, the kid looks. I don't think he thought knew I was in the class. So he sees me coming, and like an idiot, hides under her desk. So I went under her desk with him, and we talked for a while about his misdeeds. And then, I remember the teacher pulling on my pants and saying that's enough, and I wasn't listening. And then a couple of other guys. So she sent one of the kids to go get the football coach who was on the other side of the school. So he came back, and by that point I had stopped because I was tired. So
From talking.
yeah, I was. We were talking
vigorously talking.
We were vigorously talking. It was there were a lot of talking going on. So, I got called. I got sent to the principal's office, and the kid was I don't know. He slipped a lot when we were talking. So
Yeah.
he was a little messed
Clumsy
up.
guy.
Right.
So the principal had 2 couches in his going in his office. So I was sitting on one. The kid was sitting about 5 feet away on the other one.
He was still sitting upright, so that must
Well,
not have been
yeah,
too tough
couldn't
for
be too bad.
conversation.
I don't know if he was asleep or not, but he wouldn't look up. 'Cause I was staring at him intently, and he would never look at me.
Or his eyes were swollen shut.
And then, so the principal walked through, and the kid looked up at him, and the principal looked at me and called me in there, and then, which is giving me a lashing, told me that there's no paddling this time. I'm throwing you out of school. That's ridiculous. Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, sorry, sir. I thought he maybe knew what happened and was still mad. So
He didn't know what happened?
he didn't know what happened at that point. The teacher came then, who had a visible shiner already, this lady, and she popped her head in there, and she said, Mr. Morrison, I need to talk to you. And then she called him out, and then he came back in and was like, he's like, Dave, I'm not telling you that you have carte blanche to do in this school whatever you want to do. He goes, but I'm never paddling you for fighting again. I was like, okay, sir. And he was like, now, that doesn't mean you go out and double it down on what you do.
He's like, Roadhouse.
Yeah, so, but I never got paddled again. And I would actually go to other schools. Like kids from other schools would call me and be like, "Hey, this guy's picking on me."
I just keep thinking of the bear Jew from Inglourious Basterds. in this county school
He didn't need a baseball bat, though. Yes.
I just really don't like bullies, and
And you like to fight, apparently.
it kind of segues into law enforcement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bullies out there that prey on people, and it's our job to stop them.
Now, was there something with a trooper?
There was a trooper. Yeah, I was. I think I was a senior when that happened. I met all my friends at a bowling alley. I think we actually went bowling, and then we went somewhere after that. And then I was driving them back, and as we pulled in, now keep in mind when I grew up, there was probably only 4 or 5 law enforcement officers around us, but you literally didn't think of them as human beings. We didn't look at them. There was no SROs. There was no police in the schools. There was none of that. So you would see them, but you didn't.
Now, just sorry to stop you, but when you say that, like, don't think of them as human beings, like, just because you don't have interaction with them, so you're not in trouble.
I mean, it's like
so
your
just
school teacher.
Is what it is, right?
Like I
Okay.
saw my school teacher one time buying groceries, and I remember saying to my mom, "What's she doing?" My mom's like, "She's buying groceries. She eats." I'm
These
like,
aren't real people.
I was like,
man.
I didn't think about it like that
Yeah.
either. Teachers are the same way.
Right.
And I want to say we put law enforcement on a pedestal, but it was just like,
Right, they're there.
Yeah,
Right.
they're there, and you don't want to bother them. So as we came in, looking back on it now, I don't know what he was doing then, but he was doing a DUI stop. So, and the guy was much larger than him. So as I'm driving back out, the guy is now on top of the trooper on the ground. So my mind says, that's not right. So I opened my door and I said, "Can I help you?" Because I don't know. Can I help you? And it wasn't like, "Hey, can I help you?" It was like, "Hey, can I help you?" And he was
Right.
like, "Yes." So
Please.
So I tackled the guy off him and proceeded to talk to him vigorously. And the trooper said, "No, don't do that. Just help me get his hands behind his back." I was like, "All right." So we put his hands behind his back.
We got a different talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we cuffed him, and he thanked me, and I literally got my car and left. I don't even know how he knows who I was, but
Right.
and I never put 2 and 2 together till much later on in life. But
Right.
I'd been stopped, and there's a town out there called Puyallup, and that's where we would go cruise. And
Puyallup.
Puyallup, do the Puyallup. That's where there's a Puyallup fair every year. It's a nice little town. So that's where we would go cruise on Fridays and Saturdays, and there was a few vigorous talkings there when I was a kid. And sometimes they happen right in front of Puyallup cops. And like I remember one time a girl came to a party. I won't tell you what happened, but we were mean to her and we made fun of her. So we shouldn't have done it. We were jerks. We were kids. So we were cruising. She sees me. She sees us and throws a milkshake at us. And I had my Letterman's jacket on. I'm Mr. Cool. The milkshake hits like at the top of the window upside down and then explodes all over me. So I'm like,
It's a good hit.
man, that was a perfect shot.
Yeah.
So we're at Burger King. So all I'm going to do is go into Burger King and buy a milkshake and hopefully throw it back at her. I'm not going to hurt her. So there's a phone booth there. And I walk by the phone booth and some kid's like, "What are you going to do? Hit her?" And I was like, "It's none of your business." And then he punched me in the mouth. So we had a vigorous talk. But there was 2 Puyallup cops standing right there, which I didn't realize. And then when we got done, they were like, "You want to press charges on him?" And they were looking at me. I go, "You talking to me?" And they were like, "Yeah, because he's not getting up." And they were like, I was like,
Exhausted from that conversation.
No. And they said, well, we saw him hit you first. And I was like, oh, okay. So no. And they were like, okay, you can go. So, I don't know if they were just, it was a different time, or they, maybe me helping the trooper helped something out. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. But no, I never, wasn't like, oh, I want to be a cop now.
Wait, so did you get the milkshake and throw it on her? What happened?
No, I just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got distracted. So
Probably smart.
yeah.
All right, so we apply to St. Pete.
I applied to St. Pete. And it was actually really hard to get hired in law enforcement back there, unbeknownst to me. But they say that I was one of 6 out of 1,000 applicants.
Oh.
I don't know what was so special about me, but
Was your height on the application?
well, yeah. But so I ended up getting hired, and we did all the training, and I went with a lot of people that you probably knew here. Mm-hmm. Ray Whiteley was in my academy class, and Larry Naubin was in my academy class. Pete Igo.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, they're all gone now. I think I'm the only one in my academy class that's still working unless they came back and did the part-time thing. I don't know. Some of them probably did that, but
About what time was this?
that was 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, went to the academy. I got out, and they teach you like lots of cool stuff on how to get people into custody in the academy, like arm bars and pressure points, and
Which you never used?
oh, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Not just, you didn't just talk to all
I
of the
actually
people?
got yelled at, so
Yeah.
I was doing some kind of arm bar thing, and the guy was repeatedly punching me. So one of the older cops came up and talked to him vigorously, and then we arrested him. And he was like, "Do you know how to fight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good." And he was like, "Well, then you probably need to start doing that." I was like, "Am I allowed to do that?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay."
So you're trying to do the arm bar stuff.
This job just got a little easier.
So when you graduate the academy, go through FTO, all that stuff. Where do you land first?
I was in South St. Pete first. That's back then in St. Pete. All of your training was done in South St. Pete. You didn't train in any part of the city. So my first shift that I worked was in South St. Pete. My first arrest, I locked him in the backseat of my car in the Sally Port of the jail. So that was pretty fun. Yeah, I was smart enough to call the station and say, "Can you have somebody send the spare key out here?"
Right.
But he still sat in there with the engine not running in summer for an hour. So
Damn. At least Sallyport was covered.
yeah, it was
Could be worse.
shaded.
Could be worse.
It was okay. So no, I did that, and then I ended up I got reassigned, and I worked in the downtown area for most of my career. Well, they used to have a fifth relief in St. Pete, so you worked 7 at night till 3 in the morning. So you were St. Pete used to be super, super busy. Like calls for service were crazy, and then it wasn't unusual that you went high in the double digits to calls every night. So fifth relief was created to the evening shift. Cars that were on had been getting slammed for 3 or 4 hours before you check on. So when you check on, they start sending you all the covers. And then for some reason, when midnight's checked on, they didn't want to hammer them right away. So you took all their covers for the first part of the night. So there was
So you got it all, yeah.
And we all still had to write every report back then. There was no MIR system. So if you called and said the neighbor's dog was barking, I had to write a report about the neighbor's dog barking. So there was most nights I was in double digits. I would be over 20.
Wow.
Writing reports.
So being a new law enforcement officer, were there things that, well, besides realizing you could just fight people instead of doing all their fancy technique, was there any like, like what did I do? Or you just kind of took to it? And
No. Honestly, I had seen, when I was logging, I saw my first couple dead people. So that, dead people were just dead people.
went to drink milk after that. It was rough.
Yeah, it was,
Two
my,
milks.
my stepdad was a
Give me a
larger
chocolate
man.
milk.
He was a large, unathletic man. So one guy was a skidder operator, had rolled over on him, and then the other guy had gone. He hit a deer and went down an embankment. And so he made me go down there and check to see if he was. And he was no longer with us because the deer was stuck in his chest. But
Whoa.
and then when I was there was some brushes with death when I was a firefighter. I ran out of air in a fire once, and I had to crawl out very fast.
Wow.
Because I had the bell malfunction and I had no air. We were in a barn one time, and there's a very small city that got their first truck. So the truck, it has a ladder on it, typically the big ladder. So for some reason, they were told to ventilate the roof, which they did. We told them to ventilate the roof so they could let the smoke out. Well, they ventilated it and then started dumping water on top of us. Well, this old man had rewired his own attic. So they were electrocuting us. Basically, they were pushing wires down on us and electrocuting the crap out of us. So we had to basically bust through the roof to fall into the barn, which was about a 20-foot fall.
Damn.
And none of us miraculously were injured, but we weren't very happy. Our chief basically went to them and said, "You need to pack up and get out of here before they get out." So they actually left their truck.
Because Stang is in there and he's going to fight you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So,
All right.
so there was a couple, hairy situations like that. So, I had been through some stuff already.
So it wasn't.
Yeah, and I was only, at that point, I was only 20 years old. So,
Jeez.
Man.
and, I was
That's a
out there.
lot before you turn 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else in St. Pete? Spent some time in community policing?
I worked about a year and a half in St. Pete, and then our assistant chief at the time was named Terry Upman. He called me into his office one day, which if you're a cop for a year and a half, you probably don't want to go see the assistant chief. So I'm terrified. I go see him, and he said, "I don't see your application for community policing." And I was like, because I didn't put in for community policing. Now, community policing, that was when community policing started.
It was like new, right?
Yeah, it was brand new.
New concept.
A new program. So, and the way they sold it to you was not me. So, and he said, "Well, why don't you want to put in?" I said, "Well, I'm not really the shaking hands, kissing babies kind of guy. I don't really want to do that." And he said, "Well, there used to be public housing in downtown. They're still there. It's called James Park. It's in downtown St. Pete. Yep. It was really bad. Like it was overrun with drug dealers, and there's everywhere there's lots of good people that live, and they just want to live their lives.
Right.
And that was one of them, and I would see that as a patrol officer. I saw the people in there, and he said, "I'll put you in James Park, and all you got to do is one crime watch meeting a year." And I was like, "I can do that." And he goes, "But you need to get the drugs out of there." So there was other guys that were around me that became very good friends of mine, and we got the drugs out of there. I think to this day, James Park is still, I don't know why it stayed that way, but it's if you drive through, you never know.
Why do you think he sought you out for that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've always had a good work ethic, and I don't complain. I don't like complainers, so I don't complain myself. You just put your nose down and do your job. Jobs are hard sometimes. You buckle down and do it, and that's what And I was on fifth relief then, so it was tough. I mean, I had an incident where I took down 4 armed robbers by myself. But
Tell us about that. More details.
We can't glaze over that one, Dave.
I was just lucky. Yeah, I was really lucky. There was 4 guys that had been doing robberies, and one of my FTOs his name was Mike Horrigan. He was working on off-duty detail at the McDonald's at 38th Avenue North and 4th Street. So a car came through the parking lot with no lights on and really slow, and he was standing inside the McDonald's. And then when they saw him, they sped away, and he was like, "That's weird." So he called me on the radio, and I just happened to be close by, describes the car to me, and I was coming up 3rd Street, and I see the car. Still has no lights on. So I do a traffic stop on it, and it stops right at 37th Avenue and 4th Street. Stops at the stop sign, so I get out, and I walk up to the car, and it's a very young kid driving. I think he turned out to be like 13 years old. Jeez. Why they let him drive, I don't know, because he stopped. We could pursue back then, but so I said, "Hey, I need to see your driver's license and registration insurance." I said, "You don't have any lights on your car." And he's like, "Oh," but he doesn't look at me. He looks at the passenger, like looks over at the driver, or the passenger, the front seat passenger, and I'm like, "That's odd." So then he just sits there, and I said, "I need to see that information, your driver's license, registration, insurance card." And he does the same thing, just looks over at the passenger. So I'm tall and I can't see in the car. It's like a sedan. So I bend down and look in the sedan, and the passenger, I can see the butt of a long gun. Like it turns out it was a bullpup shotgun, but it's between his legs. So, and I look at the 2 in the back seat, and then I can see that there's a sawed-off shotgun sitting on the seat between them.
Oh.
So basically, I pull my gun and I tell them that it's going to be a bad day. And then the funny thing is, St. Pete, we have 10 codes for everything. We have them here in law enforcement, and certain codes mean certain things. And 10-7 is I'm out of service. It means that you're done for the day. And 10-70 is send me a backup. So I wasn't known for calling a backup. I'm by no means no superhero, but a lot of things I can just take care of by myself. So I said my call sign was 22 Kilo 1070, and I heard her check me 10-7. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't get off till 3 o'clock at night. But she checked me 10-7. Thank God other guys heard me and I could hear sirens light up. And then Mike Horgan was running across the parking lot. So the kids that turned out had gone to Lakeland and they did a takeover robbery at a Pizza Hut.
Oof.
And the glove box was full of jewelry and wallets. And the reason we knew it was from Lakeland is because they had money banded in Lakeland Pizza Hut vans, all stuffed in the glove box. And so we got them all out and got them in custody, and they closed out that robbery. It turns out they had robbed like a convenience store owner down in Gulfport the same day, and they were going to rob the McDonald's, but they saw him standing in there, so they were going to go somewhere else. But
heads up,
turned out pretty good. There was like 10 guns in the car.
Wow.
In addition to what I could see. The kid in the front seat had a 45 between his legs, which I couldn't see. And the guy with the bullpup, they were all shotgun slugs. So
they just did they contest?
No.
As soon as you drew your gun, they were like, okay.
Yeah, well, they during the interview they asked them why they didn't try to do anything, and they basically said that they knew I was going to kill them all.
Oh, okay.
That's solid advice.
I'm glad they had that fear. So we all got to go home that day. So
Yeah. Dang.
Including them, probably.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But it was shortly after that the whole community policing thing got. So I don't know if that, because he obviously knew about the case. And I don't know that, but
You do that in your first year on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of establishes your reputation.
Yeah. So
So back to the community policing piece. So it was new at the time, obviously, because it's new, right? People don't like change. Law enforcement's like, is this,
well, there's an unwritten rule back then too that you didn't in law enforcement. It's different nowadays because just a lot of turnover, but you didn't try to do anything outside of patrol for 5 years. You had to do 5 years because you had to learn how to be a cop before you did anything. Like I said, it's a little different now. We kind of have to go away from that, but that's a mindset that was hard for old timers to get away from too.
Got it. And then how long were you in community policing?
I was in community policing 5 years, and then in the mid 90s, the government started giving a lot of money to law enforcement and making up, basically you had to come up with a special twist to every program, but you could apply for these grants and the government would give you money to do these law enforcement things. So we never had a street crimes or a street narcotics unit in St. Pete at that point. Well, we did, but it was called the Green Team. And
I've heard about them.
We had kind of gone kind of past that. They were like late 80s. They were in the height of crack, when crack was really starting to kick off. They came up with the Green Team. So they were going to do this. It was called Project Respect, and they were going to do street narcotics work on police Harley Davidsons. That was their idea.
Subtle.
And so, of course, everybody was like, "No, that's not going to work." So I didn't put in for that either.
So you're supposed to be chasing bad guys.
I really don't know what their concept
Harleys?
was.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of other people buying drugs on Harleys?
No,
No.
I don't know what the concept was. I think they just thought that would be
That would be cool.
yeah. I mean, they could have done like enduro bikes that were, that would have made a little more sense. Like the Colombian police rides.
Right.
You see those? Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. Somebody wrote the grant and they got it. So I get a call to Chief Upman's office again. He's still the chief. And I walked in. He's like, "You know what I'm going to say?" I was like, "Okay, sir." I didn't even ask. I went and put my memo in. So I got that. So they taught us. They brought some outside instructors in to teach us how to ride police motorcycles. So we did that, and then they eventually sent me to Miami to learn how to be a police motorcycle instructor. So I did that for the rest of the agency while I was in that unit. So I was in that unit for 6.5 years. We never used the motorcycles on narcotics operations. We would get into cruisers, and we had slick top plain cruisers, different colors. And then we rode in parades. We would do the Toys for Tots ride. We went for I think 3 or 4 years, we went to Washington, D.C. and did the law enforcement ride up there for the law enforcement officer memorial every year. So we did that. And so that, there's a lot of neat stuff like that.
It's a whole other avenue of riding, though. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Oh yeah, the courses are intense.
Yeah. It's something. It's amazing what they can get you to do on that motorcycle. No.
Do you still ride?
No. My wife wouldn't have it even if I wanted to.
Too dangerous.
Yeah.
Not in this county. No way.
Yeah. There's some.
Because nothing you do in your life is dangerous, right? You
No.
just sit behind a desk.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. So what else is St. Pete? You there for the riots?
I was there for the riots, yes.
Oh yeah.
I was in Project Respect then.
That was
and
96, right?
96. So we would come in every day and we'd have a little read off, and then we would usually go to dinner, and then we would hit it for the night. We worked 6 at night till 4 in the morning. So we were going to dinner, and for whatever reason, I left my vest sitting in a chair.
Oh.
And we were 4 deep in a car, and we were about 5 blocks from the station, and a 1024 came out. It's one of our codes. That's the drop everything you're doing and everybody come. That's what that means to us. So, and I can tell you the entire time I worked in St. Pete, I heard 2 of those. They're a little more common. They used to be here. They're not even that common here now, but in the entire time I worked there, I heard 2 of them. One was an officer involved shooting, and one was that. Mm-hmm. So we go. I have no vest, so I feel naked for about 3 hours because they're shooting at us actively the whole time we're down there. So
yeah, this is not. I mean, so this is. I mean, because the shooting happened earlier in the day or earlier in the time frame, and then the crowd kind of gathered and it went south. So we're not talking about. I mean, I'm sure I know they're throwing rocks and bottles and things, but they actually had guns as well. So that that made it. I think that's a common kind of misconception when that stuff happens. It's like there's also firearms.
Yeah.
In play.
The second one was much worse.
When they didn't indict the officer.
When he didn't get indicted, there was a lot of shooting. Then they were prepared and they were ready for it to happen again. And so there was a lot of shooting. It was like a war zone. It sounded like that's the only thing I could compare it to. Like
so what are you all doing at that time? I mean, what can you do?
You're just hunkering down. When the shooting starts, if it's coming your way, all you can do is. I mean, we got pinned down by a guy with an SKS, and the only cover we had was a curb. And I'm not.
You're a little bigger than a curb.
That's not going to work.
I could be dead and not get behind a curb. I don't. So
yeah.
So thank God he couldn't shoot it. So he would shoot at us, and we had all we had was handguns. We would shoot back at him, but he was all the way across 16th Street, which is 5 lanes of traffic, and then probably 100-foot parking lot by the corner of a building. So we're not going to hit him. Especially excited. Yeah. But I had 2 bullets left by the end of it. So
oh wow!
So I carry a lot of ammo now. That'll never happen to me again.
I bet. Yeah. Now, so you only had handguns.
Yeah.
Did any officers carry long guns at the time?
We had shotguns. I had a shotgun at the time.
Well,
I just didn't have it on me when he started shooting at us. So
right. That's not going to.
I couldn't get back to get it.
Okay.
But it was actually the sheriff. I was in St. Pete at the time. The sheriff's office SWAT team pulled up and unloaded out of the back of a van, and then the guy took off running. So luckily they came. So.
Okay.
Any other notable stories from that, other than
in the first one, wasn't somebody shooting at you over a wall?
Yeah, the first riot, there's a big wall right there at 18th Avenue and 16th Street, and they kept sticking their guns over the top of the wall and just cranking off rounds. So we just moved closer to the wall. So every time they would stick their gun over, we just reach up and snatch it out of their hands. So.
You say that so casually.
I think we got 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that.
They didn't learn. They just kept sticking guns over the edge.
I'm assuming they were different guys. They didn't have more guns. So
wow,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy time.
A little wild.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So then what? How long do you stay at St. Pete?
I stayed there. I was in that unit for 6.5 years, and that when I left St. Pete, I was in that unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why the change?
Oh, it was just time for me to go. Yeah, it was a kind of a spontaneous thing, honestly, to come to the sheriff's office. I literally came out on a whim. My partner at the time, I was like, let's see what the sheriff's office has to offer. So I came out, and Wayne Damaris was the sergeant in training at the time, and we sat down and talked to him. He said, well, tell me about yourself. So we did. And he's like, well, this is what we have to offer you. And, why don't you guys fill out an application? And I was like, well, we're just kind of seeing where we're going to be at financially and stuff like that. And he's like, well, let's get the ball rolling. So we did. And he had us fill out our big application right there in his office. And then it was pretty whirlwind. Like 2 weeks, we were done with all of our testing. Like they had gotten our PAT, our psych, everything was done. And they were ready to hire us. So rest is history. Got hired in 2001, came over here.
What was the perception of the sheriff's office at the time coming from like St. Pete or a municipal agency?
I have always gotten along with I mean, I'm very much into the, I know it's not politically correct, but I'm into the brotherhood of law enforcement. And I include women in that. I'm not going to say brotherhood, sisterhood. It's kind of weird, but everybody's family to me,
Right.
and whether they work for the agency that I'm at or not, I always feel that they're family. I'm not going to do anything less. If they're in trouble, I'm coming just as hard. If they work for another agency, I'm going to lay my life on the line for them just like I would anybody else. So I've always been in that, so I never had that perception. Now, when I came here, there was a couple things that annoyed me. Like, they had the perception that they came and saved us during the riots. And
you had 2 bullets left. You were fine.
I let that go for a while. And then one day I spoke up. So,
Well, that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of what I was asking about. So maybe not so much your perception personally, but so you said, just the way you said it, and it could have been the way you said it, but you said the sheriff's office SWAT team showed up and then everybody took off. Like, was the sheriff's office more respected?
well, they were jumping out with long guns.
Okay.
So
That's okay.
they were going to eliminate the threat,
Right.
Which we couldn't do.
Right.
And they realized that. During the actual riot, you have to understand they had a lot better equipment than us. So I welcomed them with open arms.
Sure,
Trust
sure.
me. I had a helmet they gave me from the Vietnam era. No exaggeration. I didn't wear it because everything on it was dry rotted. And they issued us riot batons from the riots in the 1960s that were made of polymer, but they broke. I broke 5 of them during the riots. So they were just dry rotted or rotten or whatever happens to polymer. We had terrible equipment. They showed up. They had beanbag rounds. I didn't even know what a beanbag round was till they started shooting shotguns. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a non-lethal round that
Right.
you use in crowd control situations.
So they just had stuff you didn't have, and that was it.
No, we didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I welcomed them coming, but
Right.
I don't feel that anybody saved me. I mean, I was
Right.
I was doing my own work, but
Right, doing your thing.
but
They just had different tools.
that perception was there, and it is what it is. But
So you get here. Did you get fast tracked through FTO and all that stuff, or did you have to go through all the hoops?
I think it was a month I was in FTO. I went through all the phases pretty fast. I've always, like I said, I've always been a worker. I was in 4th phase for like 3 days because back then they would do your 4th phase. Your FTO would basically shadow you. They weren't even in the same car with you, but they would. They were still your FTO. And then like my 3rd day in FTO, like in St. Pete, we handled a lot of accidents because we did all our own accidents.
Yeah.
So accidents were no big deal to me. So my FTO got an accident. Well, I was working way up north then, and she was working on the other side of Lake Tarpon from me. So I sent her a message and said, I'll come take that accident because I knew I could bang it out really quick. And then the sergeant at the time sent me a message and said, why don't you go take that accident for your FTO? I said, I just sent her a message, sir. I'm almost there. And he showed up and he was like, yeah, it's your last day in FTO. I said, appreciate you. I was like, okay, thanks. And then, so I did a year up north because I didn't even know where Oldsmar was when I came to the sheriff's office. I thought it was in Hillsborough County. So I figured if I was going to do some time here, I probably should know the county a little
Yeah,
better.
the area
Yeah.
north
So,
you may not be familiar with. Nice.
so I went up there for a year. And it wasn't my gig. It was a little slower pace than what I was used to.
I imagine.
So
Go from the riots in St. Pete to
yeah, so it was
the hotbed of Oldsmar.
yeah, it was a little bit slower than I was used to. So I did a year up there, and then I came down for a couple months, South County, and then a narcotics opening came up, and I was asked to put in for that, so I did.
And that was the last time you were in patrol at that point?
No, I've been in patrol since, but
Okay.
that was the last time I was a deputy in patrol. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So narcotics.
I went to narcotics. I spent 13 years in narcotics. I worked my way I was a corporal there, and then I became a sergeant in narcotics as well.
So at first you were when you start out in narcotics, what do you do? You're buying drugs. You're just doing simple buys.
Buying drugs.
Yeah.
And didn't like it.
No, why not?
It's not my thing. I always told my wife, I've been married to my wife for 31 years now. And she always said, hey, if you go undercover, I really want you to grow your hair long. I'm not
Does she want to play with it?
I'm
Does she
not a
want to braid
long
it?
hair guy.
Yeah.
My daughters would braid it from time to time, put bows and stuff in it. But so I grew my hair for about a year and a half. It got down past my shoulders. I hated every day of it. So, and I just, I did the job, but I just didn't enjoy that aspect of it. But
Yeah.
I think I was I did that maybe 2 or 3 years, and then I became a corporal.
Okay.
And at the time out there, the corporals basically were doing the bulk of the supervising. Like the sergeants were in the office and doing their supervisor stuff, and then the corporals would run the day-to-day on the road. And then I was in tactical narcotics, so we did search warrants and vehicle buy-bust operations, and the corporals planned all those back then. So I got to do all that stuff.
So what's a buy bust exactly?
So you call somebody to, if you've been buying drugs from somebody, the idea is to work them up to larger amounts, and you call them and they meet you somewhere, and then you take them down in a vehicle. That's basically all it is. So.
What I know everybody has like a look in narcotics, so the long hair thing. Like, did you piece that together with like what was your
persona? Your undercover persona?
It was a biker kind of persona thing. I mean, I made up the most ridiculous story. Like,
well, you knew a lot about motorcycles.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So, my story was that I was, and I took it straight from Roadhouse. Yes.
Yes.
I started at, I was a bouncer in a strip club. And, but then they started asking, oh, what strip club do you work at? Because they want to come there and, you give them the hookup. So then I had to come up with like, and on the fly, I was kind of proud of myself. Some guy asked, well, what club do you work at? I was like, I work at a lot of different clubs throughout the state.
Freelance bouncer.
If an owner's having problems at his club, he calls me, and I got a couple guys that work with me, and we'll go clean up his club, and then we move on.
Which is feasible.
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Roadhouse,
Yep.
yeah. I love it.
So nobody ever caught on to that, though. So that was kind of our.
They're not known for
If
their
they did, just say
intelligence.
the movie was based on you.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Show them your mullet.
Yeah.
To back up a little bit, you said that you were asked to put in for narcotics, correct?
Yes.
And that was probably based on your experience in community policing in St. Pete, or
I had worked when I was in community policing and street narcotics. We worked quite a bit with the sheriff's office. So there was a lot of people here that knew me.
that definitely
So
knew.
that carried over, and
Okay.
that's why they asked me to put in.
There was a story about strip clubs, though, specifically, wasn't there?
Ah,
when you
yes.
Yes.
I enjoy this one.
Yes.
I do most stories about
I don't
strip
know if
clubs.
we can name the strip club, but
It was Oz.
it was Oz. It was Oz. I'm really not a strip club guy. I really don't like them at all.
Right.
Because you've seen them with the lights on.
I've been in there with the lights on.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, everybody's got to make a living, but it's just not my thing.
Right.
So I went in there with another detective that likes strip clubs. So, the girls want to be around you, and they want you to give them all your money. So,
They give you money to play with when you're doing undercover stuff at strip clubs?
Yeah. You have to play the part. So.
Yeah.
So when it just worked out when we went in there, I sat behind him, and then within a couple of days, one of the girls came up and was like, "I know who you guys are."
You were made.
I was like, "Yeah, we're out of here."
Right.
And he was like, and she was like, and I won't say the name of the motorcycle club, but she said, "You're a head of this motorcycle club, and that's your bodyguard." And I was like, "Dang it!" And he was like, he played it off. He's like, "Who told you that?" And she was like, "I just know things." But that segued into, we basically took Oz over and bought from everybody in there, and
Wow.
It worked.
except one
Yeah.
girl. She did it for a living. It was her profession. So she was a professional pole dancer, but she was actually very good. She was a very talented young lady. So she's probably out there still doing it. She actually did competitions and such, and that's the only one I would really talk to while I was there. So
We'll have to look her up.
her name was Angel or Bethany or something. I don't know what her name was. But
One of them sounds semi-normal. All right. So I think we also, because we do get things done with this podcast, I think we have to address another story that we heard from another member about,
You knew this was coming.
about your time. Now we had,
and we wanted him to be here today, but he had excuses.
and again, that wouldn't have been fair, but I heard, his version of the story, we're talking, of course, about Sergeant Brian Diebold, is that you ran him over with your truck.
okay.
And
Either carelessly or maliciously, depending on the version of the story we
he
hear.
was just out for an afternoon jog, trying to catch a bad guy, and just next thing you know, this ram just bump.
Yep.
Ran over his legs.
Yeah. And you just
That's about 85% inaccurate.
85%.
85.
All right, well, we have to
The
give
only
you
thing accurate is we were doing narcotics purchases down in St. Pete. There was a lot of open air drug dealing back then. They knew the majority of their detectives at that point, so they asked us if we could come down and helped them out with their problem areas.
Yeah.
So we went to some of these problem areas. So when you do these assignments, everybody has an assignment. Okay. So I was in a truck with 3 other people, and we were the takedown truck. So that means it's our assignment to go arrest said bad guy, whether he's standing still or running. It's our job. And then if you're the eyeball, that means you're sitting somewhere and saying, this is happening now. This is happening now. This is where the guy's at now. It does not mean you're out running down the sidewalk when the guy takes off running. We'll preface it with that.
Okay.
Okay. So I can't even remember. He doesn't even tell the story right. There's a vacant lot that I cut across. So I was cutting across the lot at an angle. So I can see Diebold, who was supposed to be in the eyeball car. And if you've ever seen Diebold run, it basically looks like somebody mated a fawn and a small deer together. And a little colt horse. So whatever that would look like, running down the sidewalk.
But like newborn, right? On those fiddly little legs.
It's certainly not like, an elegant thing. It's just you're wondering how he's staying up.
Right.
So I see him running, and we had just been issued the
Sorry,
tasers.
Brian.
I'm not sorry, Brian. We had just been issued the tasers. So he is running, stiff arm, taser out in front of him, sticking it straight
Because he wants to get the first taser.
He wants to be the first one on narcotics to tase someone. He's not even close to this guy. So I see the guy coming, so I play the angles. It's just like football. I play the angles in my vehicle. I cut across this parking lot. I go across the street, and I go to cut the guy off, which I do. It makes him turn up an alley. As he does that, I hear bam. So I'm driving a 4-door Dodge pickup truck. So, and I know nobody in here is an accident investigator, nor am I. The point of impact is between my right rear tire and the back door. That's where Brian Diebold hits the truck and then slides under it. And then I do drive over his legs. But I don't even know he's there. So how do I run him over when he runs into the side of the truck and slides under it? And then
like a into home plate slide, or
I don't know. I
couldn't
couldn't see it. I just heard it. There was a thud. And then instantly, this is what he fails to mention as well. Instantly, bad guy's no longer in my mind. I get out, run around the passenger side, and scoop up Brian.
Like a damsel in distress.
Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, my legs hurt or whatever. And then his legs have hurt. That was 20 years ago. His legs still hurt. It's like, so. But he ran, I mean, yes, I ran him over. By the letter of the law, I ran him over. But he ran into the side of a car. So basically, it's like you go through a green light and somebody T-bones you. Who's at fault in that collision?
Right.
Because they ran a red light. He ran a red light.
Yeah.
Is this while you're in narcotics, or is this with tactical?
That was in narcotics.
That was narcotics.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad we could finally. I think between the two of it, our listeners can just kind of put their favorite version together, because there are elements there. They're both.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's
Facts are
overlap.
maybe a little out of order, but it's all pretty much there.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I love comparing the two of you, all of his stories, and then I punched him and broke my hand. Whereas when I talked to you before, and of course, right now you're having vigorous conversations with people, but when you told me stories before, it was like, and then I punched him. And that's the end of story. How come you don't break your hand?
Well,
or how come he does? I don't know.
People are built different. So that's, he tries really hard. So
yeah. Bless
Just like
his
with
heart.
running.
yeah. I love Brian Diebold. He's
I know, I do too. I
love him very much. So he's a brother to me, but he just got this story wrong.
Yeah. Well, now we got it right.
And
Right here on
he's been injured quite a few times, but you know, he works hard. So,
What's the genetics from the baby deer fawn?
yeah, that whole Colts,
Colts, yeah.
Yeah.
if you mix all that together, then
Yeah, it's going to have some structural
Yeah,
issues.
hybrids are always chancy.
Yeah.
All right. So you're in narcotics for 13 years. What gets you out of narcotics?
I just went back to patrol. Went back to patrol one day and
That was
time
believable.
for a change of scenery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems.
yeah.
Because you missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some things going on narcotics at the time. It was tumultuous out there. There was a couple unfortunate events that happened.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think they wanted a clean slate.
We can leave it there. So then what?
I went back to patrol for better part of 6 months, I think.
As a sergeant.
As a sergeant. And then I was asked to put in for the Violent Crimes Task Force, which we had at the time. And I didn't really want to do it.
Why not?
I'm noticing that trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always get told to put in for something.
Yeah. I mean, there was 5 other sergeants that had put in for it, and one of them is a good friend of mine. And I said, let him do it, and because he really didn't want to be in patrol. He was also in narcotics for a long time and had moved on. So, and I didn't mind being in patrol. That's the core of everything we do. So that's fine. And they basically wouldn't take no for an answer. So I went to Violent Crimes Task Force after that. So
this is kind of, different types of policing. So, you start community policing, which is kind of a totally different, I mean, in my assessment, just like from what I see is that, you obviously have 99.9% of the people that we deal with are just kind of the day-to-day typical nonsense, and it is what it is. And you can approach it, those folks you can approach with reason normally, and all right, we got you this time, move on, whatever. You're not going to see those folks again. But then there are some people that doesn't exactly work.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about just the dynamic of the Violent Crimes Task Force, like what the attitude is, what y'all are tasked with doing, because it really was and is, the components of it still exist with different names, pretty effective.
Yeah. So then, as much as it is now, we had curtailed the problem for the most part in the county and the city of St. Petersburg. Our main focus was the amount of vehicles that were being stolen and the amount of vehicles that were fleeing from law enforcement.
And what year was this, roughly?
Yeah.
It's going to be...
It's 2017.
Yeah, you said
16,
13
17.
years in narcotics.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple
So
in,
I think it was 2017 to after 2020. We were in that unit. So, and it was the second round. They had done it before.
It was in partnership with St. PPD.
We did St. PPD, and we had Clearwater Police Department was with us as well.
And very proactive, we'll say.
Very proactive. There was a tremendous amount of quality law enforcement that was done in that unit. We took an average of a gun a day off the streets. There was a wall in our office that we took, and for the first probably year or so, we never took pictures of them. We started taking pictures of the gun. And the wall was probably 20 feet long, average 8 foot tall wall. By the time we were done, that wall was covered with pictures of guns that we had taken off the street.
It's awesome. Amazing. Yeah.
So, and numerous stolen and every kind of gun you could think of, machine guns and handguns and everything else. And, essentially that's saving lives, not necessarily, probably our lives, but it's also saving people walking down the streets lives because, these guys will just start shooting
regardless,
at people.
And it's going to get in the hands of the wrong person eventually anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you, what's the day-to-day like? Like, how do you track down these folks with the guns? How does that all work?
Essentially, we would go to different
the stolen cars,
to different areas, and there's telltale markers obviously, if it's a stolen car, we run the plate. It's a stolen car. If we run the plate and it's not attached to the car, it's got. Right. They've taken a plate from somebody else and put it on there. It's not reported stolen yet, which was a thing.
So you guys are but you are out, you're self-initiating this. It's not like you're getting a list from patrol.
But we got a stolen car list, and we would find cars that were on that list. It was pretty prevalent.
But you kind of just went to the hot spots and see what happened.
We went to, the areas where those vehicles were known to be, and we would, when we first started doing it, finding stolen cars was not difficult at all. They were running all over the place. So, and our tactic was we had, the helicopter would work with us, and we had rented cars, so we would swap out our rental cars quite often, and we had plainclothes guys that were in those cars, and then they were supported by marked and unmarked cruisers, and they so typically a marked cruiser would attempt a traffic stop. If the car fled, the helicopter would keep track of the car, and the unmarked cars would. The undercover cars, for lack of the rental cars, would try to stay on the car from a distance, basically within headlight length of it, and follow it. And the goal was, and then the marked and unmarked cruisers would basically form a rolling perimeter around them. It was, Lieutenant Buckley described it one time as like a ballet. He said if you watched it on GPS, it looked like a ballet. Like the way the cars would move was they would move like fluid around the guy. And then the goal was to either have them stop, obviously, which seldom happened, or we would hit them with spike strips or we would pit them. So, and get them to come to a stop and then try to get everybody in custody. So, and that was pretty much the day to day. That happened several times a night.
So you guys weren't like necessarily going after like particular warrants or anything? Was that the
Not at
violent
that time,
offender
not in violent
warrant?
crimes. It was all vehicle related.
Okay.
Because there was so many stolen vehicles and car, and they were stealing the cars and then going and breaking in, and by the end of it, we were getting calls from other counties and being like, hey, we're getting killed out here, because they were, instead of doing it in our county, they were going to other counties and doing it, and they wanted to know how they could stop it. I'm like, well,
got to get out there and be proactive.
Get a VCTF. I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I mean, and again, kind of back to the way you do policing. It's not glamorous. It's exciting. It's not glamorous. It's not something that people really understand. But what you're telling us is that the presence that y'all had out there made a difference. People went elsewhere because they knew that y'all were out there, and they weren't going to pull it off here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it actually got to the point where the younger guys that we were, it's juveniles for the most part, they would just stop and take their punishment. They wouldn't run from us anymore because they knew we were going to come after them.
Yeah.
So they would just pull over and be like, okay, you guys got us.
Wow.
Because they know they're going to go to PJAC and go right back home. So
yeah, that's what I remember around that time. I was a teacher in South St. Pete, and I remember it was a lot of like 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds stealing cars. Yeah. And they would just go right back and do it again. Yep. It was insane.
They still are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of a lot of things going on in the world of law enforcement and the political climate, VCTF goes away.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Violent Offender Warrants Unit, did they coexist?
They were working as their own separate entity at the time.
But they were warrant specific.
They were warrant specific. Yeah,
and
that's all they did.
I'm sure you guys collabed a little bit, but
actually we didn't cross paths very often.
Okay.
No. They we worked in the same building. Our office was in the same building as them, but they had a different, they have a specific target that they go out and find that target, or they'll they do that multiple times a day. So they they had a different mission than us. But I mean, they would come to we had a few incidents that required more law enforcement.
Hey, is this your guy?
And they would come to us. If we were shootings or something that, they would come assist us on that and stuff like that.
So VCTF goes away, and
it had run its course. And it really wasn't. We were still having people flee from us, but they were actually older guys at that point. Like I said, the kids had kind of stopped fleeing, or they had gone to other counties and done their thing. And mostly it was just, guys it started to be guys that didn't have like driver's licenses and stuff. It was getting, they were just fleeing because they didn't want to go back to jail for their, 15th driver's license violation or whatever. So
now that lived in patrol. Where
that was it was assigned to patrol operations.
Okay, so VCTF kind of goes away, gets disbanded. Then what?
Repurposed is a better word. Yes.
Repurposed.
So they came to us, the sheriff came to us and said he appreciated all of our hard work, which was very nice of him. And he did not want to send us back to patrol. So he actually put it on our shoulders to say, what do you guys want to do? I want to create a different unit. What do you guys want to do? So I think our idea, we came back to him, we'll just make VOWU twice as big. VOWU is the Violent Offender Warrant Unit. So that was the other unit. And then we had a tactical surveillance unit at the time too. They were IOB connected. They did all the surveillances for all the detectives in IOB and such.
Okay.
So we floated that idea, and they came back and said, basically they want to make a hybrid unit of all three. So they rolled all three of those squads into one unit. It became Tactical Investigation Section.
Okay.
So it was originally 3 squads, 3 sergeants, and a lieutenant.
And then
did you start off as lieutenant over there?
Nope. I went from sergeant in VCTF, and my entire squad that was in VCTF with me came over to Tactical Investigations, and that was my squad in Tactical Investigations.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you got the phone call from the sheriff on that, right? What was the order of, hey, what do you guys want to do? Then you getting promoted to that? Did you get promoted first? Or
no? We actually Captain Corlett was then the Lieutenant Corlett. He was our lieutenant. we all came over. We basically each squad stayed with themselves. So the tactical surveillance unit, their squad was a squad in that unit. BOA was a squad in that unit, and the VCTF guys were a squad in that unit. So we each had a squad. That was in late 2019, maybe. Yeah, late 2019, early 2020. Okay. It was like 6 months after I got shot, I think. And I don't think me getting shot was the catalyst to do it. I think it was kind of on the decline anyway that we were gonna go. I'm sure the sheriff wasn't happy that I got shot, but
we just dropped that nicely into the conversation right there, just like a thing.
So that was while I didn't forget about it, but I was in my head. The order is so that was still VCTF.
That was VCTF.
Okay,
yes. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to cry.
Okay, well,
it's okay.
What happened?
A car, typical. Somebody saw a car, and I think a tag was expired or something. They did a traffic stop. It was a younger kid. I think he was 23 years old. He actually stopped. Gave his driver's license to the officer that stopped him. It was the Clearwater officer that was working with us. Mm-hmm. And then the officer went back to his car to run his information, and the kid just drove off. So the helicopter wasn't overhead at the time, like they were coming. And then so the kid drove off. The helicopter gets in the area and was like, "Yeah, the car's sitting right here in the middle of the road with the doors open. The front driver's door's wide open," which is unusual. Like nobody went after him when he left. They didn't have enough time to get back in their cars, and he took off pretty quickly. And so he had gone down the road and a couple blocks and turned and just left the car in the middle of the road with his door wide open. So, he's no longer with us, so we can't, we can only speculate what he did, but he got out of the car and went the house that was right there. He got out and went in the backyard, and the canine told me later that, they're awesome at what they do. So they knew. The canine handler told me he knew the guy was in the backyard. He could tell by the way the dog was acting that the guy probably was just pacing back and forth in the backyard. I guess because the odor was stronger or something like that. So he goes in the backyard, and then in the meantime, if for those out there that don't know, if you see a police car with its lights on at one intersection, and you go down 5 blocks and there's another car with its lights on at another intersection, we're basically making a big square, and we call that a perimeter. So we're trying to contain a bad guy inside that, and we try to get him to lay down so our dogs can find him, because if they don't want to cross our perimeter, they see us, they'll usually bed down somewhere and try to hide, and then either the helicopter sees them or a dog can come get them. Sometimes they break that, and then you just adjust the perimeter. It is what it is. So I was actually on a perimeter spot. When the call came out, I took a perimeter spot, and I was west and south of the car. So we're there, and the canines, he gets out, he starts going to the backyard. He sends his dog on the long lead, so it goes around the corner. The guy's there. He takes off running and is shooting back at the dog. Gets a lucky shot, hits the dog in the leg. So the dog goes down. The handler pulls him back, and now we think the guy's still in the backyard. So we have this perimeter set. So it's kind of hectic at that point. They're trying to get a team over there.
Did we know he was armed up until that point, obviously?
No, we did not know. We're trying to get a team to the side of the house to go see if he's still in the backyard. The helicopter's overhead, and they see a heat signature that's back there. It kind of appears that he's there. They're trying to get a shield up there. There's some waiting going on. At some point, somebody tells them to merge the two channels because we're on our own channel, and they want to merge our channel to St. Pete. I keep getting bonked. I'm trying to get on the radio, tell them not to do that, because at the time it did not work well.
Yeah.
So that's going on. So when I'm on my perimeter spot, and I saw there was like some kids that they look like they had maybe gone out for the night. 2 guys and 2 girls. They were catty corner across the intersection from me. We're 3 blocks from them. They're not really going to get in anything. So he shoots the dog. So when he shoots the dog, I tell the kids, go inside the house. He just shot at our canine. And they listen, unlike most kids. They went right inside the house, and they were gone. So we're now on a perimeter spot. They're still waiting to make contact in the back of the house. And I think at that time they were trying to merge our channels, and I think it's what it was messing things up. So I'm sitting there on my perimeter spot, and I hear, I would say, like 8 shots in rapid succession. And it sounded like they were right outside my car. Now, where we were, it's not unusual to hear gunfire. Like, you know, it's pretty prevalent. Sometimes people just come out and shoot in their backyard just to,
do
you
it all
know,
the time.
especially if they see us, you know, they'll shoot. And then, you know, I don't know what they're doing. But so I hear the rapid succession of shots, and I was like, and it sounded like it was right there. So I carry a gun on my vest and one on my hip, because when I'm sitting in a car, I can't get it off my hip. So I spin in my seat and I pull that gun, and then I heard a zing, like a bullet will make a zip noise, like when, and I didn't hear a fire, but I heard the zip noise, and then something hit me. So I thought something in my car flew up and hit me. I thought he shot something in my car, and that's what hit me. So I was like, okay, it's time for me to leave, because I still couldn't see him. I was trying to see muzzle fire. I was trying to see a person. I couldn't see anything.
Right.
So I put the car in drive and started to leave. And as I'm leaving, I was looking out my passenger window. And at that point, I see there's a bullet hole in my passenger window. So I'm not the smartest man in the world, but I lined that bullet hole up with me. And I was like, I probably got hit. So I still didn't feel anything. I didn't feel like I'd been shot at that point. But I went to talk on the radio, and the only light in our car is the red light from our radio. So I had my mic in my hand, and I kept getting, we call it getting bonked. It gives you a busy signal. So I'm getting bonked and bonked and bonked. So I look down at my radio, and when I do, I can see blood is like cascading off my arm. It's like somebody turned a faucet on, and it's going on my radio. And I'm like, that's not good. So, but it keeps bonking me. So then, you know, I'm thinking, he must have hit my antenna.
Right,
So let me switch to my portable. So I get on my portable, and it's bonking me. So I was just going to drive out of there. I was going to drive myself because we were at 3rd Avenue South and 27th Street is where I was sitting. So I was just going to drive to Bayfront Hospital. I knew it wasn't that far away. So I started driving north, and then there was another St. Pete officer was on the side of the road. So I stopped, and I told him, hey, I got shot. I'm going to Bayfront. And he was like, what? So I had to tell him again, of course. And I'm still trying to key up on the radio. Well, what I don't realize is the helicopter is now over me, because their transmissions aren't coming through. I don't know what was going on my radio, but I couldn't hear anything. So, and I might have just blocked it out. But the helicopter's above me, which I don't know. So I drive to 1st Avenue South and 37th Street, and then across the intersection is a pickup truck. And, you know, this is 1 o'clock in the morning. Its headlights are on, and it's just sitting there sitting at the stop sign. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this guy needs to go before me, and he doesn't move. So now my cop brain kicks in, and I'm thinking, this guy's got a partner. And if I drive, I wanted to go eastbound on 1st Avenue. I said, I'm not going to pull out and go eastbound and have this guy come behind me, because I don't want a bad guy behind me. So I'm like, I'll just drive past him. Well, also at this point, it feels like a gorilla grabbed my shoulder. Like it starts hurting bad. And
you're bleeding a lot.
I'm bleeding a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find the hole, and I can't find the hole. I keep sticking my hand up there, and because I had Quick Clot on me, I would have stuck some Quick Clot in it, but I can't find the hole. So so I decide I'm going to drive by this truck and see who it is. So I kind of slide down in the seat a little bit. I pull my gun out, and I drive by, and it's undercover St. Pete guy that I've known since I was in St. Pete Cop. So I've known him 20 something years. And I'm like, as I drove by, I remember thinking, what are you doing? So then I drove up, and I was getting close to Central Avenue, and took some time to reflect, and I was like, I said, you know, nobody really knows. I can't get on the radio. Nobody really knows where I am right now. If I try to drive to the hospital and I pass out, because I'm bleeding bad.
Right.
So if I pass out, I'm going to die on the side of the road without them finding me. And again, the helicopter's above me, but I don't know this. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull over in this parking lot right here, and then I'll go back and get him, and he can help me. So I have the video of it, but I pull over in the parking lot. I get out.
I have not. I need to.
It is I remember back when this happened, of course, we're glad you're okay. And they're like, no, we got video of him getting out of the car. So they're looking, and they obviously were hearing you. Well, somebody was hearing you because they were monitoring you. But you see Dave get out of the car, and on the infrared from 1,200 feet in the air, you can see blood shooting out of his shoulder. And it is wild. I'm like,
can we watch that tomorrow?
I gotta see if I can find it, but I gotta
I'll send it to you.
But I mean, it is like, and that was kind of when
It's actually coming off my hand. It's
Oh,
running,
okay.
It's
Oh,
running
see,
down my arm and coming like off the end of my finger.
But I mean,
Wow.
you see it. I mean, like,
It's a
as
constant flow. I didn't realize until later. I didn't really realize how bad I was.
I mean, and the flight guys are talking about, hey, can we land right there? Like, they were ready to go down there and get him.
So I get out and I walk back over to the curb, and because I was just going to hit him with my flashlight, he's gone. So I'm like, oh Lord. So, so at one point I go down to I put my hands on my knees, I bend over, and that's what I'm thinking, God, grief. Because I was just going to get back in my car and keep driving at that point. So, but then I see Samora Church, my little guardian angel, she's a St. Pete sergeant. She pulls up to the intersection. So I flash her with my light, and she comes over, and she's a smaller lady, obviously much smaller than me. So she gets out, and I'm like, you just tell me where I'm hit. I said, I have a quick clot. I'll get it for you. And she's trying to look at my shoulder, and she's like, it's just because everything's saturated at this point. And she's like, you need to sit down. I can't see anything. So I sit down. She helps me take my vest off. And then I think she cut my sleeve off. And she's like, yeah, all I can see is a little hole right here. She goes, but it's bleeding a lot. So they came, and God bless them. Some guys tried to put a tourniquet on. The round was way up on my shoulder, so the tourniquet wasn't. They ended up putting the tourniquet basically right over the hole almost. But yeah, I mean, they did something. That's all.
You do what you can do. Yeah.
And she went in there like a trooper. She doesn't know me from Adam. And I mean, obviously I'm another cop, but she was barehanded, was all up in my armpit and everything else trying to find, because I thought I got hit in my brachial artery. That's how bad I was bleeding. So I figured wasn't going to have much time if I didn't get some quick clot in there or do something. And then, so I'm sitting on the ground. I'm uncomfortable. So I kept asking her to lay down, and she's like, you're not laying down. So she made somebody get behind me and like hold me up. So it turns out that St. Pete has a head paramedic, a lead paramedic that works every night, and usually the more skilled paramedics, so they drive like a pickup truck. He's 2 blocks away. He's on another call. He hears the call go out, and he's like, "Oh, I'll go stage." So he pulls up. They're waving him in the parking lot, and he thought, I talked to him later. He thought they were having him come to the staging area. He said he pulls in the parking lot, and he sees me sitting there and blood pumping everywhere. So he's like, "Oh, grief!" So he gets out, and he ended up packing my wound with click clot and stopped the bleeding. And then I think they gave me some medicine and stuff like that, or I started feeling better. The pain kind of went away. So, but yeah, he kept they kept asking me if I'm dizzy, and I was like, no, I'm not dizzy. He goes, you don't feel faint? I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, all right, we're gonna get you up. And I thought he said stand up, so I stood up. And he's like, no, don't stand up. I'm like, well, I'm standing up because they wanted to go bring the gurney. So they brought the gurney over, put me in the ambulance, and then I think the kid driving the ambulance was his first day on the job. Somebody told me. Yeah, so he's getting a police escort, but he's basically drifting in the ambulance. So the kid was driving. So
that's awesome.
So I went to the hospital, and I'm an EMT, and I still don't know this, but I get there, and the doctors. She asked me, the trauma surgeon was like, do you feel faint? And I was like, no. And she's like, are you dizzy or anything? And I was like, no. She goes, well, you probably lost 6 pints of blood. And I was like, well, I'd be dead. I said, I only have 6 pints of blood. And she like looked at me for like 30 seconds, it felt like, and she was like, no, it goes by your mass.
Average person.
She said, you probably have 12 pints of blood. She said, you probably lost half of your blood.
I tell you, every time that thing was spurting out, I think it was a pint. I'm like, holy cow.
You bled out a whole person.
Yeah,
that was a
because
lot.
I saw a firefighter a couple weeks later when I got back, and he was like, oh man, you're back, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, I had to go do the wash down in the parking lot. He goes, that was a lot of blood. I was like, yeah, it looked like it.
That was a great thing.
But they were going to buy me a new cruiser, and I liked my cruiser that I had. So I asked them not to. So, this agency takes care of you in many ways, but they said no if he wants to keep his cruiser. So they paid to have it cleaned by a professional crime scene cleanup company, and they replaced a bunch of plastic in the driver's seat.
That was the sheriff's old Tahoe, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just, that was so lucky, obviously. But if it would have been anybody, like, assuming that he couldn't see exactly where you were, if you're, where your shoulder is probably where a normal person's head is.
Yeah. And that's what I told the guys. And, I go to the gym the other day, and my wife has been known to give me a hard time about it. But the first visit with the workers' comp trauma attorney that I had to go see, or doctor, was already my doctor because I have a knee issue. So we were in there, and he was like, if you didn't have the body mass that you have, you'd either be dead or paralyzed right now. He goes, because the bullet's still in me. He said, your trap stopped the bullet. He goes, if it was somebody else, and he said, if you could see, it's tracking right for your spine.
Oh,
So I looked at my wife and she was like, I'll never say another word. And she hasn't. She doesn't say anything. I can be at the gym for 3 hours.
There you go.
So
if it was anybody else, it would have been a different story.
So you see why I led with the description of his size. It's relevant to everyone.
No, it's 100% relevant.
And somebody put me there. I mean, I almost made somebody else take my spot because I was, I'm the sergeant and I had a lot more experience than the guys that were, most of the guys that were at the house. So I was going to go to the house and take that over. And one of the St. Pete guys drove by and I picked up my mic and I was going to tell him to stop and take my spot. And for whatever reason, I didn't.
You didn't. That's everything happens for a reason.
And I told the guys when I came back, I said, I'm not trying to be Mr. Macho, but if it wasn't me, we would have probably been going to a funeral. Because they even if they just took the same exact hit I got, they probably would have bled to death because we wouldn't have been able to stop it. So,
what year was that? Was that
2019?
19. Okay.
Yeah, March 29th, 2019, coming up.
what happened with the guy you guys were after?
He ended up killing himself.
Oh,
It's a mental health story. The kid had problems his whole life, and it was instead of treatment, he went to jail a lot. And it's a sad story. It didn't need to happen. He should have got help at some point. But
what about the canine?
the dog lived. He went through a bunch of stuff. I think unfortunately they had to put him down a couple years ago now. But
what was his name?
Yeah, it was one of
Titan.
Oh, it's one of St. Pete's dogs.
It was St. Pete dog. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so TIS, which is your today's assignment. I know we can't talk about too much of what they do, but anything you want to or you can share about the kind of work y'all do?
Yeah, I mean, day to day they go. They'll look for warrants. Warrants with substance. They're not going to come arrest you for DUI.
Right.
They look for the bad individuals that are running around out there preying on people. So they're trying to get those guys off the street.
So you get a list every day, like every morning, a list of the active warrants comes out.
They get that, but they actually work. The guys will actually work cases. Like they just got a guy this morning actually that they've been working for over a year.
Okay.
And he's been eluding them, and they were able to go track him down and found him this morning over in Tampa. So they do that. If patrol, it's kind of.
And you guys work under IOB, investigative operations.
Yeah, we do now. And it's kind of blossomed, I think, since we first started. Initially, we just were supposed to do surveillances for investigative operations so the detectives and make apprehensions for them. Now we go after the warrants. A lot of the warrants are connected to their open cases or narcotics open cases. We try to help patrol out as much as possible. So if you're if we have a patrol deputy and let's say he works in Safety Harbor and there's an incident that occurs in Safety Harbor and the suspect lives in Seminole, he can't drive to Seminole and arrest that. So he'll put out charges. A lot of times they'll let us know. Sometimes they don't, and we'll just see the charges and we'll go arrest that guy for them. So we'll go track him down and arrest him. And then any high profile case that you see that comes out, there's, if there's a homicide and the suspects are.
So you guys are going after Deputy Hartwick's alleged, trying to follow up on that stuff as well.
Yeah.
And with all the things you've been talking about with some of these specialty units, it sounds like there's a lot of door kicking and action stuff, but there's also a lot of, which there is, but there's also a lot of, there's some finesse to it. You guys are really good at finding people.
Oh, yeah. The guys are. I won't take we're 2 squads now. We started a threat management here at the agency, and they took one of the squads from our unit. And then, so we became 2 squads then, but they're both phenomenal. Like this county's lucky they have those guys.
What goes into, how do you track somebody down?
Well, that's where we can't talk about it a lot, but there's they use a multitude of different, we're a social media based environment now. So a lot of it hinges on that. A lot of people put a lot of things on social media. And there's a lot of other tools that they use to track them. We don't need to discuss them here.
Right, but sometimes I guess what I was getting at is you just go knock on doors and talk to people sometimes.
That's a lot of it. Yeah,
so it's not complicated.
They actually do investigations. They dig and dig and dig, but they eventually they're going to get anybody that they're looking for. If you're on the run in this county, those guys are going to find.
I know you know this, but those guys, are extremely highly regarded in the agency. It's like, oh well, Tiz will get them. Yeah. Oh, Tiz will get them. Tiz will get them. Like,
and I told them from the very get. I said, this is who I want us to be, but understand you create your own monster. So now things are expected of us, you know, and if we don't get somebody, then it's like, well, what are you guys doing?
What happened?
You
What the
know,
hell?
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of times it's just teasing.
Sure.
But you know, that still comes up, and they eventually will get them. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. But,
It's a good problem to have. Everybody has too high of expectations because you do such a good job.
well,
Kind of like PR, right?
Yeah. Like we keep inheriting things like, no, we got to suck at something. So that doesn't. But so what else? What is there anything exciting on the horizon for Tiz?
no, I think we're just
Keep on
Cruising.
keeping on.
we're just going to grind away doing what we do. You know, I push on these guys to be quiet professionals. That's you know, you let your work speak for itself, and that's what they do. You know, they're not looking for awards, they're not looking for accolades. They just grind and do their job, and that's, you know, that what makes them admired by other people, I think. So
Do you find, I mean, you mentioned that's how you wanted them to be perceived, like as a kind of a leadership role. How do you motivate your guys?
These guys don't need motivation. If they need motivation in my unit, they're in the wrong unit. So there's no pushing people in this unit. You have to pull them back because they want to go.
So you just pick the right people.
You just pick the right
Rather
people.
than set the example.
Yeah, they're handpicked. These guys in this unit are the cream of the crop. They're the best we got. So, and then, you know, that's not by accident. So,
Good stuff.
yeah.
When did you get promoted to lieutenant?
I got promoted lieutenant in 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was shortly after the unit started.
Yeah.
We'd only had a unit a couple months.
And who was in before? Was it Corlett?
Corlett was the captain, and I think the sheriff called him up, and I think pretty sure Randy recommended me. Captain Corlett recommended me, and I guess the sheriff didn't argue with him. I don't know. I was
Obviously not. You made it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little shocked, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't ever expecting to get that phone call, but it happened. Yeah, I'm probably the only one that asked him ever, "Are you serious?" And
At least it wasn't, are you sure?
yeah, well, he's a serious man, but
Yeah.
you know, he when I asked him about if he was serious, he went on for a while about why he made his decision, and it was very humbling what he said. So,
Good.
so
All right. Well,
Now, you have a story that was featured in a book, right? And I don't think you were mentioned by name, but
no, I wasn't mentioned by name. It was me and we had an escape from the jail when I was in narcotics. He was a murderer. His name's Timothy Humphreys. He was in a divorce with his wife, or they had been divorced. So he convinced his new girlfriend, it was in Pinellas Park, to go and kill her. And the girl went and shot her. She was sitting in her car in the garage.
the new girlfriend killed the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, killed his ex-wife. Yeah.
Oh.
So they ended up finding him in Tampa. And I don't know if they still do this, but at the time they transported him in what they got caught in. And when he got caught, he was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and black sweatpants. So he's a very cunning guy. He was like a personal trainer, big guy, really fit. And I was in narcotics, and we came in at 3:00 in the afternoon. He escaped like noon. And we came in, our sergeants were like, "Get your stuff on. There's a guy escaped from the jail, a murderer. Go find him."
did he get out of the jail or?
He got out of it. He was transported over here from Tampa.
Got it.
He was in a transport van.
Got it.
He was in a compartment where the door wasn't. There was a girl in the compartment where the door was, and there was a little window in the cage, and he convinced her to hold one side of a bolt while he undid it, crawled through that little open window, was able to get the door open, and they left the Sally Port door open. So he ran out and through the wood line, which there was no fence at the time. There's a fence there now, but swam across the pond and basically hunkered down. I think at that point the siren had gone off and people were looking, and so they were looking for him for about 3 hours when we came to work. So I joked with the sergeant. I said, "Give us half an hour, we'll get this guy." So
Pretty cocky, but
we left, and there was a call over off of 58th Street. There's some horse farms there, little horse farms. A lady said her horses were acting really weird, and they only do that when they're around people. There can be, a badger back there. They don't care, but they'll act like that with people. So we got the canine there, and we went and checked the wood line. There was nothing. And so they all went to check a barn, and my partner was like, let's walk this way. Let's just walk this fence line. So we jumped the fence, and we jumped a couple fences, and then there's a little church. I think it's a Hispanic church that's right there off 150th. I think it's 150th. And they had a bunch of portable classrooms that hadn't been like secured yet. They were like still sitting on some kind of trailers. And I was like, oh, that'd be a good place to hide. So we're walking along, and then we see the world's biggest fire ant pile that you've ever seen. So we're like, wow, look at the size of this thing. And we're like poking it with sticks. And, and I just happened to look, and there's an oak tree like out in the middle of this field, and it's got brush like all around the bottom of it. And I look at the oak tree, and it looks like there's a tire inside the oak. And I'm like, a weird place for a tire. So I don't know why, but I start walking towards it. Well, the tire moved. So I draw my gun, and suddenly you see your hands, and he brought his hands out in front of him, and he had one handcuff on, and the other one was dangling open. So I made him crawl out from in the bushes, and so he crawled out, and then we got him in custody, and then they took him in the van, and what he had done was...
He came quietly?
We talked about it. But... Yes,
I love your conversations.
he tried to get up and run. And again, I'm not a runner, so I dissuaded him from running. And then, then we peacefully took him into custody.
You de-escalated the situation.
Yes, I asked him not to do that, and he complied. And so, when they took him in the transport van, he was cuffed, obviously, and he was doing something with his hand, and he had broken the arm off his glasses, and that's how he was able to undo his handcuffs. So
was that within your half-hour self-set?
Yeah,
it was
25 minutes.
Despite poking at the anthill for a little bit.
The whole
Which I
thing.
love, because that's something that I would do.
Yeah, like, oh my God, look at this.
It was
What
like
kind of danger I was in?
He's
and we
like
got him.
sneaking out, and you're just like, look at how many ants are in here.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
So somebody wrote a book about it, and they mentioned that he got caught in the book. They don't mention us by name, but
Damn, that's worthy almost. That's a good one.
yeah.
I'll put you in my next book.
Well, I never knew. I never knew I was in the book. One of the state attorneys was like, "You're in the book about that," and I was like, "No." And he actually gave me a copy of the book and showed me where it was. That's the most of the book I read, just that little section.
So one more work thing, because you kind of alluded to it earlier. You said you've only punched one woman ever.
Yes, there was a very large woman one time that was trying to kill herself, and she wanted to run into traffic.
Oh.
And she's eating some biscuits. Let's just say she was a good 350, and it was hot. It's it's summertime. She's sweaty, so I'm just trying to restrain her from running into traffic. So, and I'm calling for more units, and nobody's coming. And I'm trying to hold her, and it's right by 38th Avenue and 4th Street again. And there's
St.
cars.
Pete, then.
There's cars coming, and I'm just getting exhausted. So it got to the point where I had to talk to her and make her stop doing that. So I only hit her once.
You just knocked her out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I felt bad. I still feel bad about it.
For her own good, though.
That's the
saved her.
cowards hit women, and I felt bad. But
Well, it's kind of different
Didn't want her to
circumstances.
die.
Yeah.
I didn't. I hope she's still alive. If you're still out there, ma'am, God bless you.
Oh. So even though you were not a firefighter anymore, you saved somebody from a fire, right?
I did when
Yeah.
I came to the sheriff's office. I was going to work one night because I live in a different city, and I was driving north, and I could see on the other side of US 19 a car went up a guide wire and flipped over, and I was like, I should probably go check on that guy. And when I got back, the car was on fire, so it was just me and him. So I went in there and pulled him out. And
I was thinking of another one though. There's a woman who saved somebody else from a burning building.
I did that when I was
Yeah.
in St. Pete. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. We were working downtown one night, and we could see an apartment building. There was a fire in an apartment building, so we went up and evacuated some people. Me and my partner told everybody to get out. And then when we got downstairs, the lady was like, "Did you get Mrs. Whatever? She's deaf. She lives in that apartment." And I was like, "I don't know. Do you see her?" And she was like, "No." So we went back. I went back up to the top of the stairs, and the smoke was at the top of the stairs by this point. So I had to force entry into her apartment, and then I went in there, and I was trying to let her know I was a cop, but
How'd
it's
you
kind of
do
hard when you
that?
can't tell them, and you can't see me. So I just drug her off the bed, and then she passed out, and I drug her out of the apartment, and she lived. So I got smoke inhalation.
Deaf elderly women from fires.
You've been
Wow.
through some things
You have.
in your
couple things,
in
yeah.
your career.
Yeah.
Do you ever think twice? You ever afraid? You ever?
No. I mean, everybody's afraid. If you say you're not afraid, you're silly. I've been afraid a lot of times.
Right.
But you got to push forward.
Just keep doing it.
Somebody's got to do it. You know what I mean? It's not, there's a lot of men that aren't going to do it. So you got to be the man that's going to do it. So
somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you.
might as well.
Listeners right now are swooning at that. That's you're very heroic. Do you know that?
No, I don't think so.
You come across as very heroic.
No.
What? Okay, so outside of work, what do you do for fun? Keep yourself from going crazy.
Work out for 3 hours a day.
No, not 3 hours. I go to the gym. Me and my wife are both homebodies. There's not a lot of, we have dogs now that are our babies, and we love being around them. And neither one of us are like drinkers, or we don't do any of that stuff. So love being around each other. She's the love of my life, and
there it is.
I'm perfectly happy being around her.
Sweet.
So
another swoon. Yeah,
More
it's good.
swoons.
yeah, I got two fantastic daughters that are both very successful, and
What do they do?
my oldest daughter is a traveling NICU nurse.
Oh,
She's making
yeah.
bank.
She's
Yes, she is.
she's coming home.
And
It's
doing
starting to
good.
slow down. So
Yeah.
she's in Dallas, Texas, and she's homesick. So she'll be coming home. And my youngest daughter is a high school teacher at Eastlake High School.
Nice.
So.
And what do they? So what does your family think about what you do?
My wife has said for years that what she thinks about when I go to work is that I just go and sit behind a desk and do paperwork all day.
That's probably for the best.
That's kind of how
And
she's done it.
he made
over
up
the
everything
years,
that he just said. He
Yeah.
did that for us for entertainment value. He 100% sits behind a desk. You don't have
I've
to
seen him.
worry.
Yeah. I've seen him
Mrs.
there.
Stang.
And I'm not a storyteller. Like
Yeah.
that's why I don't, people ask me, oh, tell me cool stories. I don't remember them. There's not, I put, especially bad things, there's not room in my head for those. I don't need to.
That's normal. It's normal for
So I don't, a lot of stuff I forget. I don't remember a lot of things until I'm somewhere else and somebody else is telling the story. But I'll tell my wife funny stuff, but I don't, tell my wife, oh my God, I almost got killed today, or I got jumped by two guys at work today. That she doesn't hear those. I've shown up bloody at home. I don't know what she thought I was doing, but
Somebody else's blood.
Paper cut.
Paper cuts, yeah.
yeah.
paper
Paper
cuts.
cuts. Sure.
Well, good stuff. Well, we appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and remembering some stories.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. It's just we like to get people, especially the ones that don't like to share, don't like to be in the spotlight, because that's really the point of what we do, is try to
Right.
bring folks in and talk about who they are, what they do, and highlight their work at the sheriff's office. We really appreciate it. The last thing we normally do is just give you an opportunity. Is there anything that the public can do to make your job easier? And should we say what it can't be? We don't talk about guns and cars.
Yeah.
So anything other than that.
That horse has been beat to death.
I know.
Yeah.
If you're
And yet.
if you're leaving
And
your
yet.
car unlocked with a gun in it now, then I don't know what I can tell you about yourself. So, what I like to tell people is, first of all, what I'd like to tell young officers is, when you go to somebody's house, always, whatever your contact with is with that person, make them feel that it's the most important thing that you've ever done in your life. It's going to save you a lot of trouble, and it's going to have other people view law enforcement a lot differently. It can be the dumbest call in the world. And let's face it, cops get some really stupid calls. But if you just bite the bullet for a little bit and make it sound like, you're going to go out and do everything, and you may not do anything about it, but as long as you left there and that person's like, you know what, they really took me seriously, saves you so much trouble. And a lot of that comes from being a supervisor of people, and they're like, oh, this guy, I've called him 47 times and he won't call me back. It's just like little things. But as far as people, and it kind of goes back to when I was a kid, and I've said this to people when they call and complain, is that, law enforcement officers are human beings. Like, we have bills and we have family problems, and, people in our families die, and we have bad days and they're in bad moods. Yes, we are professionals and we should act professional at all time, but when you're human, that's not always easy to do. So sometimes when you get pulled over and the cop's not a bubbly personality, maybe he had a bad day. Maybe, you're just the first person that he's talked to that day. Maybe he just came from a house where he had to tell somebody that their loved one was dead, or, saw a dead child, or all the other nasty things that we have to see. I think it's just important that people realize that maybe cut us a break sometimes, because sometimes we have a bad day. And they cut, there's a cross section. There's cops that are jerks, it's just, but there's people that work at Target that are jerks. That's what it is. For the most part, they're very dedicated people that are doing a job that not a lot of people want to do. And, we're not asking for any accolades, and, we get awards, sure. But, for the most part, and it happens. And I tell young officers, be patient, because sometimes you really get down on this job and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then somebody will be like, hey, thank you for what you do. And sometimes that's all it takes. It makes a huge difference
Just
you're
the
right.
recognition.
Yeah, you're like, thank you. Or they don't have to buy dinner. Like it's been,
Yeah.
when you're in uniform, people will buy you dinner, and that's fantastic. That's very nice of people to do, and it's not necessary at all. But I really don't. I won't say I don't like it when people do it. It's just I don't feel comfortable when people do it. So, but I'm certainly not going to make a scene in the restaurant and say no, you're not. And I've been the way I look now for most of my career, so it doesn't happen that often.
Well, that's love that. That's perfect. That might be our best answer. That's a pretty good one. In depth, I like it. Lieutenant Dave Stang, everybody. And just the other thing I would add personally is that if you're running from us and trying to hide, it's not going to work out very long because Tiz is coming for you. So
And Dave Stang might come and exchange some vigorous words with you.
yeah, could happen. Could
Have a
happen.
talk.
Thanks, kid, for coming on. Laura, if people want to reach out to us or give us feedback, how could they possibly accomplish that?
Ricky, I have an answer for this. We would love to hear from you guys. You can get in touch with us at lets56@pcsonet.com. That's LETS56@pcsonet.com.
Good stuff. Thanks, everybody.